Thank you, Julia. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Good morning. Are you ready for this exploration?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Come on. Once again, are you ready? So the question, obviously, we wanted to have a catchy title, so we came up with how to power your cell phone for a week. But cell phone is a complex electrical and electronics device, as you know, and it has a lot of components. And when you think about powering it for a week or maybe even longer, you have to think about it from an entire system, from the electronics, the chips which drive it, from the batteries, which store the energy, and the cooling and everything else. So if you think about from a holistic perspective, then maybe you will come up with a solution, not just a piecemeal fashion. So what we're going to do today is, first I'm going to cover something about basics of electric charge and explore the history of electricity and how it evolved, especially over the 100 years, last 100 years it just blossomed, and everything we do now today is connected with electricity, and that has revolutionized how technology has evolved. And then Ashfia is going to talk about generation. This is not how we generate our electricity, but this is one aspect of generation. And then Claus is going to talk about energy storage, in particular batteries. And finally, Jagjit is going to talk about how you take the chemical energy trapped, for example, in water, and convert that into electricity. So with that, and also when you see Frank and Julia, you should thank them, because without them, this session wouldn't have been possible. So let's take this long journey of what electricity is. From beginning, it was more a mysterious force. For example, even dated back almost 4,500 years ago, there is incidents of people detecting electric fish and this fancy charge these fish had, but they couldn't explain what it is. And later on, around 600 BC, you have static electricity. And we see static electricity every day. And for example, this kid going through a slide, and you have charge generation on the air, and then if you have same charge, then the air will ripple, and you have this kind of Einstein effect. So, so further down, only in 1600, William Gilbert coined the term electricity. And this electric force, you can feel through the vacuum. And in this case, if you take opposite charge, they will attract. And in this case, you take repulsive charge, the same charge, then they will ripple. And that is a positive charge. These are negative charge. So there is a lot in progression of how we are attempting to understand this electricity if you just follow this brief history. Then people found out that you can conduct this electricity through medium. That is what gives this absolute strength of this, that you can conduct this energy through wires and other means, but also you can have extreme control over these electrons, to count them, to step them. You can do almost anything. That's why you can not only do from computing, but also to actually propagation of energy. So it is a great thing. But the thing is, when you pass these electrons through a wire, you generate heat, and that is what we use for incandescent bulb. That's why it is more of a heat generation than a light source, and that's why we are going towards LEDs and other things. And later, if you think about the founding fathers, they not only developed a great constitution that we live in today, but also if you look at Benjamin Franklin, he's a great inventor, but also electricity was his domain of research, and he has made some seminal contributions. And if he postulated that this electric force is a fluid, just like water or air or anything else. It's a fluid. It permeates everything. And also he explained the lightning is an electrical phenomena. And then going further down, you have Coulomb's law that, okay, it essentially says that the force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So as you go twice the distance, it will be 1/4, and 4 times the distance is 1/16, and so on and so forth. So and also this led to electromagnetism, that moving electrons also can have a magnetic effect. So there is a coupling of electrical and magnetism around that time. And then there are various inventions, including battery, electric motor, and steam turbine, and so on, which drastically are the basis of the Industrial Revolution. But still, people didn't understand what electricity is. What is the root cause, or what are the things which are causing? Only in 1897, J.J. Thomson discovered electrons, and this is the cathode ray tube. And essentially, they have a high voltage, and this is the cathode, anode, and the electrons move through this vacuum chamber and hit these fluorescent things. And these are called cathode rays, and people have known that for at least 20, 30 years before that. Only J.J. Thomson systematically studied them. And for example, he put a electric charge. When you put a negative charge, then these electrons get repelled. And he observed how much the repulsion is. Based on that, he calculated what the charge is. And then he also put magnetic field, and also magnetic field also repels these electrons. Again, using those relationships, he came up with the mass of this electron. And so the basic understanding came almost 300 years after the modern discovery of electricity. So there, and obviously, that is what led to your old TVs. Maybe most of you in this audience have not seen it. And the resolution of this is much lower than what you have in your iPod or iPhone today. So we have come a long way in just 50 years. And so going further down, so J.J. Thomson not only get the Nobel Prize later, but he's also acclaimed to be a great teacher. So 7 of his students got Nobel Prizes, and his son later in 1937 got a Nobel Prize too. So one of their students is Rutherford. He said the pudding model, where J.J. Thomson said that the electrons are embedded onto the proton or the positive charge. He said that is wrong. And he did a simple experiment of, this is just a schematic, so don't read too much into it, but this is a gold fault, where he took a very thin gold fault, and he bombarded them with alpha particles, which are positive. So what he observed is that these alpha particles, for most of the time, they just pass through. Maybe they get deflected slightly when they don't see the interact with the positive charge at the center, but rest of the time they just pass through. So from that, he had this conceptual thing about classical description of what atom is, and where the positive charge is and where the negative charge is. And obviously, that is only the initial attempt of what the atom is, and there is and then Bohr came later on and said that electrons can't be in just arbitrary orbits, and it has to be quantized. And Schrodinger came up later on, and he talked about it's a wave, and there is electronic orbitals. And so those are kind of details you'll learn as you go. But the important thing is that there is a lot of discovery in this process of from the understanding of the phenomena to going and further developing the understanding and the discovery, and then that revolutionized the technology. And today, if you look around, there are a lot of things we really don't completely understand. Even these electrons, we assume that it is electrically negative, and that is the convention we give. But what is that which creates this charge? Or if you look at gravity, there are a lot of questions outstanding in terms of people have theories about gravitons and other things, but it is not conclusively proven what really causes gravity. So there are a lot of these mysteries which, if you put your interest behind it and pursue, you could one day solve these important problems. And so now coming back to some practical thing, so we had looked at the brief history of electric charge and how we came up to electrons, and then how we use that in different applications. And one of the ways, Frank is going to do a demo with the energy balls is, okay, you have how you complete a circuit. So once you complete a circuit, you have a way to propagate these electrons or transport these electrons and control them. You can turn on the switch and turn off the switch, and you can also do many other things. So maybe I'll quickly, as I go through all these things, I can launch. So I don't know whether it's going to work. But what I'm going to ask everyone is, for example, if I take the spanner, which is made of metal, and put it in between these connections, would it light the bulb or not?
Yes.
Yes? OK, that's right. How about water?
No.
Oh, that's good. How about salt water?
Yes.
So why does salt water conduct and not water, pure water? Yeah, there are no free electrons, or no easy way to conduct electricity. How about copper?
Yes.
How about a glass tube? And how about a graphite? Good. Then aluminum and plastic. Okay, so this is an online thing. I think my cell phone hotspot is off, so I couldn't bring it up. But before closing this session, I just wanted to quickly show you one thing which happens every day around us. And it took a while before we realized this is electricity, is the lightning, where you have clouds in the air atmosphere traveling and collecting charge on the as they rub against the air, and you create negative charge, and that induces positive charge on the ground, and then after a while you have this conduction of the electrons and the positive charge. And there is more complication in terms of ionization of the air, and this has to be very high voltage before you can have lightning. And you have tremendous, means hundreds of thousands of volts between this, and it is a very powerful and obviously thunderous event which you see every day. And so can somebody tell why you don't want to stand out in the lightning? Yeah?
You can die.
Why?
Because it passes through your body.
And then what happens?
You get electrocuted.
Huh?
You get electrocuted.
Yeah, so what is electrocuted? So when a lot of these electrons go through your body, it generates heat. It's the same thing as in a bulb. And when you generate this enormous amount of heat, then you get burned. So it is electrocuted. That's why when there is lightning, you don't want to go out. And so same static charge you see when you, in winter, you touch something, or you touch another person. So why don't you get electrocuted in that case?
There's not enough electricity to heat you up that much.
That's right. The charge buildup is only few electrons, or maybe thousands of electrons. That is not enough to heat you up to generate the same thermal effect. Great. Thank you so much. And Frank is going to show a energy ball demo, and maybe you'll ask for some volunteers to come out.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need 4 volunteers with 3 electrons to spare. And how about you, and you 2 guys there, and you, and gotta have a young lady. Come on up in the aisle, please. Come on up. Okay, come on up here. Okay, now you guys have plenty of electrons, right? If you lose a few electrons, is that going to be a problem? Now, there are lots of electrons. Okay, now I know you guys probably won't want to do this, but I need to hold hands. Yeah. All right, hold hands. Okay, we're going to make a circuit out of you people. Now I have a special device here that will put electricity through these people. It won't hurt them, but anyway. Okay, Ferris, we won't damage them too much. Okay, but anyway, we're going to put electricity through these people, and one person will touch one side, and the other person will touch the other side. And it'll light up if we make a connection. So if we can conduct electricity through these people, so if you will put your finger on here, and if you'll come around and put your finger on the other side, holy mackerel, they made a circuit, okay? So you're gonna have the opportunity to make a circuit using energy balls, and each and every one of you will get one of these if you go to that station. We have a station. Now we're gonna try a parallel circuit, okay? All right, does anybody know what a parallel circuit is? What is that? That's right, there'd be 2 paths for electricity to go. So we're going to try a parallel circuit. So let's see, you will break your hands here, and then you touch them. Both of you guys touch the same place. Okay, there you go. And then your left hand, you need to touch this young lady here.
Oh, it's like alternating current.
No, this is called parallel circuit. So if you'll touch the one end and you'll touch the other end, oh, we have a circuit. Okay, now we're going to try one thing. If you will just get out of the picture, okay? Try again. There you go. So a parallel circuit is where the electricity has two paths to be able to go. And if you break the parallel circuit, it will, the electricity can still flow, and it will still flow in the existing branch. Well, thank you so much, guys. You can have a seat, and then you'll be able to get energy. Thank you. All right. We're going, if you'd like to start, let's see, would you want to get ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so when you walked into this room, you saw Frank and Julia playing with this little thing here. Well, maybe not so little, pretty big. This is called a Van de Graaff generator. And what I'm going to try to tell you is how this thing works and what the basic physics is behind how you generate static electricity. So in a winter day, as Sreekanth was saying, that if you rub your feet on your carpet and go and try to hold a door bolt, all of a sudden you get a shock, right? If you actually have a key in your hand and you try to just go close, you'll actually see a spark going through as well. That's what is called static electricity. Now, there are various different materials that behave differently depending on what they come in contact with. So if you rub a glass rod with a silk cloth or rub a piece of amber with wool, you will attract, and then if you hold it next to little pieces of paper, it'll attract, right? So some of you have done these experiments in class probably. If you just take a balloon, like one of the air balloons, and rub it on yourself, and then you take it next to little pieces of paper, it'll attract. So what is happening is that you have different types of charge, right? Because we know that the like charges repel and unlike charges attract. So if you have an electron and a proton, they attract. If you have electron and electron, they will repel. So we will have a lot of activity to show that effect, and they're all based on this thing called triboelectricity. Essentially, depending on where these materials fall in this series, some of them tend to lose electrons, some of them tend to gain electrons, right? So they either get positively charged or negatively charged. And depending on where they are in relation to each other, you can get this type of effect, essentially generating charge. So charge separation that happens due to rubbing or contact between materials is called triboelectricity. So now this is actually a device. Remember what we just heard, that in 1897 we discovered the electron, and then in 1930 there was a better explanation of what was going on in an atom, right? And so people started thinking about how to generate this and how to accelerate particles through this. So this is really the first particle accelerator that was built in 1931 by Robert Jamison Van de Graaff. He's an American physicist. He was at MIT and essentially built this massive Van de Graaff generator here. If you ever go to Boston, you should definitely drag your parents to the Boston Science Museum, because that's where it's located. And this thing is about 40 feet high. And they have an amazing lightning show. They turn off the lights and you can see the lightning going from one to another. So something like this, which you're seeing, see if you touch it, and hopefully we'll get to show you this effect that your hair all stands up, is this Van de Graaff generator. This came from Oak Ridge Science Museum. So if you ever go to Oak Ridge Science Museum, you can play with this as well. Now this thing generates about 200,000 volts. If you think about it, that's a lot of volts. So the line that comes out from your walls, who knows how many volts?
140 volts AC.
Right, that's actually important, right? Because why is that dangerous? And here you can just touch it. There's current. There's a lot more current going through your lines than here. There's very little current. It's basically an accumulation of charge here. Now, who can guess if this thing is about 200,000 volts, what do you suppose this thing generates? This is about 40 feet high.
Like over a couple million volts.
Close. It's actually 2 million volts that it generates. So you really do get to see lightning when you go to Boston Museum. All right, so what does it have? So I'm going to go with a very simple explanation. There's a lot of things going on in a generator. There's a lot of details, and you can actually read about it more. So I'm just going to give you the overall view of what's happening here. So we've got a motor, which is here, right? We have two rollers. There's one roller at the bottom. There's a roller at the top. There's a belt that goes around these two rollers. There are two brush assemblies. So here's a brush and here's a brush. Now, depending on what kind of material you pick to make this belt and roller, they will have different charge. Like the one I'm going to talk about will generate positive electricity. But you can also have choose the material so that it generates electrons instead of protons, right? And then finally you have this ball, right? The one that you're going to touch. So simply, first thing that happens, you turn on the motor, and the lower roller covered, I've picked the material so that works. Let's say it's a silicon tape that turns the belt, which is made of rubber. The roller builds up negative charge, and the belt positive charge. Why is that? Because of the same effect that we were talking about, the triboelectric effect. They have different properties. One wants to attract charge, one wants to repel charge. So because they disconnect, so now the rubber is an insulator, right? It's not going to try to move the charge back to the roller. So the positive charge slowly moves up. So it repels the electrons near the tip of the brush and begins to strip nearby air molecules also. And then the belt gets coated with positive charge, which moves away from the roller. So at the end of, once I give you the explanation, what we'll do is we'll show you a movie of what is actually going on. And Frank will do a demo on this big Van de Graaff here. Now the upper brush assembly is connected to inside of a sphere and hangs near the upper roller. So there is actually a brush inside that's touching inside surface of this sphere. So the negative charge brush is attracted to the positive belt, right? Now you're getting in contact, and again the air breaks down, and you generate this positive charge all around the sphere. So you've managed to charge it. There's actually a lot of other things going on, like Faraday pale effect and whatnot. But in principle, this is a device to generate positive or negative charge and transport it, right? So this is, the belt is a charged object delivering a continuous positive charge to the surface. We will also have in the demo station little things called fun fly sticks that has essentially the same thing, but it's a handheld stick that you can actually play with, all sorts of different shapes. You can see the repulsion, the attraction, how it can actually move things, etc. So now we go and let me just play the movie. So the motor's turned on. Okay, so there it goes. So this is the roller now rotating. And these are the brush, the prongs. That's the brush installation at the bottom. And because of the rubbing, you're now generating the charge. What?
Why did the positive stay at the bottom?
So there's this brush, right? That's actually taking away the electrons. So the positive.
How is it taking it away?
So it generates an electric field where now you have, because there is a pointy thing, it's like a lightning rod. You know, if you don't want the lightning rod to strike you, what do? You have a rod which has a pointy surface. So that attracts the lightning and it goes through and grounds it instead of coming onto you. That's exactly what the brush is doing. So now it's coming again on the top brush. So, which is connected to your outer sphere. So this is now getting attracted because it's building up charge. I think that might be it for the movie, or did they show it? Oop. Did it get stuck? Yep, that's it. So I'll let Frank take it away and show the real thing.
So you know, this is the Van de Graaff generator. It's running right now, and if I just stand up here and now I'm using my arm like this, and it lets you, it zaps it, and what if I get close to it? What do you think it's doing to my body? Well, you know, if the top is positive, what do you think is all over my skin? What do you say? Electrons. Electrons are going all over my skin, and occasionally giving me a hard time. We can get a nice, because I'm not very well grounded, we can get a very nice zap out of this. This is pretty big. It does all kinds of things. It's really neat how it works. And so we have some little blues. Look what happens. So it goes toward it, and then when it touches it, it gets to be the same charge. Then what happens? It goes away from it because they're the same charge. One stuck, and then it gets the same charge, and it gets the same charge. These balloons really like it.
This is only a charge beam. You should have got neutral
Pretty,
beam.
huh? Okay, now this is kind of fun. All right. It's going to be technical difficulty. Yes, smaller fingers, maybe smaller fingers. Big fingers, no good. Just don't want to get the thing for yes! Very good, thank you. So, okay, good, it works. Kind of did, you know, since we've had other problems, want to float away. They get a charge and then it moves away. The pantograph light speed has been shocking my foot for the last 2 minutes. So you see how the bubbles do it? Now it's nice and sticky on top here, and I'm ready for volunteers that want to use that. All right. Ms. Abby, Dr. Abby, you want to pick the victim? I'm sorry, not victim. Should never use victim when you're talking about electricity.
Okay, I need a girl with long hair that didn't put a lot of product in it. You way in the back. All right.
Oh, gotta make
You've
it
had your hair
good.
for a long time in the
All right.
blue and white. Here's the white.
Okay.
The blonde hair, that's blonde hair there. You go.
Okay.
All right, we'll
All
start
right.
with that.
So, are you ready to be shocked? Okay. All right. So go ahead and stand on here. Well, oh, there you go. Okay. So now, hand on the pantograph.
I want to see your face.
Hand on the pantograph. Okay. Did that hurt? Oh, good. Okay, now I'm going to, whatever happens, don't take your hand off there. Now, it's not that I'm going to goose you or anything, but whatever happens, don't, because I'm going to let it charge you up with electrons. All right, now you're charged. Now shake your head. Uh-oh, your hair's starting to go up. Are you frightened?
They hurt.
Shake it real hard. Oh, look, she's going back into the 80s. Okay. Go ahead, go shake it real hard. Oh wow, your Farrah Fawcett, you can see. Okay. Shake some more. Okay, who's got the hairspray now? All right, I understand. Okay, now you can get your hand off. Go ahead. Thank you very much. You did a great job. Okay. The gentleman over here, we're going to see whether we can get every hair stand up. Why do you think the hair was standing up? I mean, is it afraid of the pantograph? I mean, what do you think is standing up? Anybody? Electrons, very good. And you know what? They don't like each other. They really hate each other. They're like the Hatfields and McCoys. I remember this in Tennessee. And so they're like the Hatfields and McCoys. So they want to get apart as far as they can. So they'll line up on all of the hair follicles. Okay, that's your hair. Okay, and so they'll line up on that, and then they'll try to get as far away as they can. Okay, now put your hand on there. All right, don't take it off now. Okay. I mean, even if we use you or tell you weird jokes or anything like that. All right. Okay, now you are being electrically excited. No. This young lady would like to stay singing for a while. Okay, now shake your hair. Okay, shake your hair. Now see, what I do is I take the charger for you, so don't take it off. Okay. All right, now we're gonna zap you. Oh, look at that. Okay, shake your hair. Shake your hair. You know, like you're a model or something like that. You're shaking your hair. Holy mackerel. Oh. Oh, wow. Your parents are gonna take pictures of this and blackmail you forever. Okay, take your hair sport. All right, we have a winner. Keep it on there, okay? All right, now you take it. All right, very good, very good. All right, so we have, you know, we do things with this. We're going to be working with the fun fly sticks that do something similar to this, and but anyway, we're going to be doing a lot of these different things, and it's really really interesting how this stuff works. And I hope you'll enjoy this the rest of the program. Okay, we're ready for our next. There we go. There it is. Dr. Daniel, come up your setup there, and we will.
Yeah, I think I'm going to come up here. So. Yeah, you kind of come. You sit right over there. Okay, yeah, well, this was quite fun. Now, the great thing we have talked about before, Ashfia told you that essentially this is creating a lot of volts. It's not creating a lot of current, right? That's why we were not much worried about them getting sapped. I mean, it's a little shocking right at the time it happens, but there's nothing which can really hurt you, which can really do some harm. So now the tricky thing is, if you want to have a lot of energy, if you want to really do something with it, you need to do much more current. You need to create much more current to actually use that voltage to do some work with it, right? For example, when you have your cell phone, in your cell phone there's a battery in it which has a certain capacity. And that capacity in the example of your battery is about 1 amp hour of capacity. So that means you can remove a certain number of charges over a time, and you keep on doing that, and after the day, that battery is depleted. So there's no more charge in it. But the total energy is more actually than what's in here, right? Because you can do that over an extended period of time. If you Facebook a whole lot, maybe at lunchtime it's out, right? If you just do a few calls, maybe you can make it to the next day. So what is a battery? Well, a battery is essentially where you have two electrodes. You have an electrode which has a positive charge. You have an electrode which has a negative charge. You have reactions going on there at that. And what you do is you have a salt bridge which allows ions to flow. And you have an electrical circuit which allows electrons to flow. And that's where if you take your battery, like anybody has ever taken a 9-volt block battery, those batteries which have the terminals on the same side, and put it to your tongue? Your tongue is actually making that electrical connection then, right? And you feel it. The electricity is going through that side here, and you can close the circuit, the same way we saw it with those electrical balls there. Now, what type of batteries are there, right? That 9-volt block battery is typically a battery you buy, you use it once, and then you bring it back to the store or to a recycling bin or somewhere else to make sure it's being taken care of. You cannot use it again. That's why every time when we switch our clocks in the springtime and in the fall, we're going around the house. I hope you do that. Go around the house to all of your smoke detectors, take the battery out, put a new battery in. You cannot use that battery again. Now, that's what we call a primary battery. That's a battery which is not rechargeable. That's the stuff you buy in the store, those small AA, AAA alkaline batteries. When you try to recharge them, they would actually blow it up, and a lot of stuff spills out of it. So don't even try it. Then there are other batteries. The reason why we can actually use our cell phones the way we use it is because we have rechargeable batteries. Right? It would be pretty messy if you have to take out your battery every night, throw it away, go to the store, buy a new battery, put it in your cell phone. Right? While you do that, you lose all your data, things like that. That would be really, really bad. So that's where the secondary batteries come in. And that's where we use those rechargeable batteries then. Now, what types of rechargeable batteries do we have out there? Everybody, if you came here in some sort of a vehicle, a car or a bus or a pickup truck or something like that, they all have a lead acid battery in the front. You know that. It's a package about like this. It's pretty heavy. Has a lot of lead in it, very heavy metal. And that is a battery which is extremely powerful. It has a lot of power, but it has very little energy. And that's a battery which has been around for a very long time. And it makes it possible for us to start our cars nowadays with just either a twist of the key or a push of the button. Before that, people actually had to go to the front of their car and they had to crank the engine themselves because they could not start the engine automatically. And then once the motor is running, it's good. You actually don't need the battery anymore. So therefore, such a battery works very well. If you now want to do what Dr. Pannala did this morning, have an electric vehicle, drive somewhere, and don't have the engine, then you need much more electricity. You need much more energy. So you need a larger battery. That lead-acid battery is not going to do it. And what, for example, made it possible over the last 10 years that we could see those Toyota Priuses, for example, on the street, which were hybrid vehicles, where essentially the battery helps a little bit, or the electric motor helps a little bit with power. And when you brake, it can store some of the energy back in the battery, makes it a more efficient vehicle. That one was possible because of a new class of batteries we used, and that's what we call nickel metal hydride batteries. They're having about double the energy in them compared to that lead acid battery. And then just recently, about 20 years ago, we started to find these new batteries here, the lithium ion batteries. That's the stuff you have in your cell phones nowadays. That's the stuff if just recently one of your parents, while the cordless power tools, the battery died on him, and they had to buy a new one, they probably bought a lithium ion battery then. And that is now a battery. See that? It's again double the amount of energy in them. So this is a real powerful battery. And that's why we are enabled nowadays to have all these gadgets, all these iPods, all these iPhones, all the cordless power tools, which actually work very, very long, amazingly long. And those are also the batteries which we are nowadays seeing in full electric vehicles, in vehicles which need a lot of energy in order to go anywhere. Now, how do batteries look? These are some pictures of a variety of batteries, but to give you a better idea about the sizes of these, I brought some samples here. So Stina, you want to take that small button cell? So this is a battery you all have in your watches, for example. And this one is actually, what's in there is not really what's in the watch nowadays, but this is an experimental battery. That's where we at Oak Ridge, for example, or at universities or so do research with, where we put an experimental material in, we package it, and we can test it then. We don't need a whole lot of material to really make sure that we have the right stuff before we can work on spending a lot of dollars to make more of that material. So the batteries you have in your cell phone are more of that type here. So you want to take the medium-sized battery. That's sort of the size of the battery you have in your cell phone, or your iPad, or something like that. It is in the lateral dimension, sometimes a little smaller, and then it's a little thicker, or it is a little bigger, and then it's a little thinner, right? And that battery is what I said before. That has about 1 amp hour of capacity. That's the one which can run your cell phone about a day. You want to pick up that big battery in the front, that one. So that's actually a battery which we're using for electric vehicles. That one is about 52 times larger than that other smaller battery you have seen. That battery could run your cell phone for about 2 months without ever recharging in that time frame, right? And it has the same voltage as the small ones. It just has a lot more energy in them. So there's much more material in them which stores the energy. So you're not changing that. Now the tricky thing is to really run an engine off and to run a car off, that small voltage will not allow you to run a good, powerful engine. It's just 3.5 volts, maybe 4 volts, depending on what's in the battery, really. And then that's when you're starting to build your serial and parallel circuits out of many of those batteries. And what you see there, this module in the front, that is a small module for electric vehicles. You have to take that, put 40 of those together, and then you have a battery for an electric car. That is then a battery, it weighs about 600 pounds than what's in the Nissan Leaf, for example. So how does a battery work? You have a lot of energy stored in them. How do you access that energy? You essentially close the circuit. You use a light bulb or your electrical appliance or anything in order to draw the energy out. And what happens is your voltage on that terminal starts slowly to get down. And as you're drawing it down, time goes on, and all of this is the energy you can use while you work on that. All of a sudden, at some point, it is depleted, and then the voltage rapidly falls down. And that's where it comes in that you have to have a good charger which recognizes that at that time and stops. That's the time when your cell phone says, I'm out of juice, I'm shutting down now. There's still some energy in the battery, so you can switch the cell phone back on. It shortly goes on, the charger then realizes, well, I'm about out of juice, I need to shut off again. If you keep on doing that, you're actually damaging the battery. So very important, when your cell phone shuts itself off, don't shut it back on before you can actually charge it, because that is when you're going in this area and you're damaging the battery. If it's a small battery, well, it's just bad for the battery. If it's a real big battery, bad things can happen. Now, during the experimentation later on, we'll actually do a very neat experiment, because everywhere we talked about before, when Dr. Pannala showed, when you have that salt water, then you have ions in that water. The same thing happens anywhere where you have some sort of ions in forms of sugars or alcohols, or you have some functional groups somewhere, things like that. So what we will do is we will use a lemon out there as that salt bridge. And then we will use two metals which have different, what we call electrochemical potentials, and we connect that through that salt bridge, and then we can run a current here. We will put some voltmeters there and measure that. And Frank, you want to come up here and show shortly how that works? Now you will read a certain voltage then on that when you do one lemon and one set of copper and zinc. What I would like you to do is, as you're doing that experiment, try that with one, and then work with a partner together to try it with 2 or 3 and see what the voltmeter does. What do you think it should do? Any idea? It should go up. That's right. That's right. In fact, the lemon is your salt bridge. The copper and the zinc is your battery. Those are your electrodes. And as you line them up and you put more and more together, then you're increasing that voltage the same way you do when you take your AA batteries and you put them behind each other. Always connect the positive terminal of one battery to the negative of the other one, and you're increasing the voltage. So here, when you do that later on, very important, never connect this copper to another copper and then the zinc, because then it won't work. You put this copper to another battery with the zinc side, and then you keep on going. And the last copper and the last zinc all go to the voltmeter, and then you can measure that. So now the tricky thing is, if you look, if you take a Nissan Leaf, an electric vehicle, for example, that has a battery in it right now which has a humongous amount of energy, 24 kilowatt hour, 24,000 watt hours of energy. And it has a peak power of 80,000 watts. So when you are at the station, I want you to read the voltmeter, and I'm going to tell you that there's a current of about 1 milliamp on there, and then maybe you with your friends and with the mentor at the station can try to figure out how many lemons would you need to run the Nissan Leaf off. And when you're coming back later on, we can hear what your answers are. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Are you guys having fun? Yes, sir. Yes? Okay. So, my colleagues walked you over from how the history of electricity, the charge, the electrons, and then we talked about how to generate charge in a Van de Graaff. So you are going from understanding, and then Klaus Daniel talked about how to store charge on demand. When there is power, there is current, when you need for some application, how different kinds of batteries are storing charge, and how long they last, what are the applications, and how they work. So now I'm going to switch a little bit the gear here to go to even more exciting part of energy storage. Where from this charge is coming from? Is it coming from breaking of chemical bonds? How the charge is converted, how the chemical energy is actually converted to electrical energy. There are different mediums. Battery is one of them. Then I'll talk to you about a little bit of another form of energy storage, which will walk over a new concept called fuel cells. How many of you know what a fuel cell is?
A what?
Fuel cell. Fuel cell. Anybody? Okay. So looks like this is going to be very exciting now. I have to now walk you over. So what is, how does a fuel cell and what it is a fuel cell? And very basic. We have air, oxygen in the air. Now, wouldn't it be very nice if we have a hydrogen tank or hydrogen from hydrocarbons, any source, and combined with oxygen from air, and what do we get? Hydrogen and oxygen through a catalyst, which I come later, and the product is water, which is environmentally clean, but it generates energy. Very exciting. Can we do it? Yes, it has been done over decades and decades, and we can do it. And actually, we are making fuel cell cars. Demonstrators are expensive, but we have fuel cell cars, and for stationary applications, we have fuel cells here. So so let's imagine what I call a fuel cell stack here. This is a single fuel cell stack. You can see how, as I told, the hydrogen, I have a hydrogen cylinder here. Hydrogen goes through here, and it is for recirculations. And I have anode layer and a catalyst layer here. And there is gas diffusion electrode, which the hydrogen passes through here. And the electron is stripped off and goes externally to the circuit here. The hydrogen goes through the membrane and combined with oxygen here. Oxygen comes from here, other side, and forms water, and the electricity is generated. So there are three things. We need hydrogen from one side. We need oxygen from the other side. And there is a membrane assembly. It's basically layers of catalyst, carbon electrode, and a membrane, supported on a membrane. So this is exciting. So the theme is this is a very clean way of getting energy because the product is water. Now, without going into more detail, I think I should tell you, how many of you guys know Car Talk? Listen to Car Talk in NPR. Okay, so Sreekanth, it will go now. Oh, so, pardon? So now I'll actually demonstrate how does it work from the car folks guys. Oops, sorry. Press what? Oh, okay. Okay, now listen to this.
What is this? See? I know it. It's not an engine. Well, it has a box. It has lots of things to it. That's what the main twist is. This is an electric motor. This is basically an electric motor. It sounds like my Norwich refrigerator. This is Conrad know a lot about regular cars, the ones with internal combustion engines. This, on the other hand, is an electric car, but you don't plug it in. Instead, it's powered by this mysterious fuel cell thing. Yeah, this is technology that none of us told us this. You need help? Yeah, we really could do this. Someone, a passerby, just an ordinary citizen. Oh my God! Thank goodness the car comes with its own expert, Dan Kelly, who works for a company that actually makes fuel cells. So it has an electric motor. What runs the motor? All the electricity comes from the fuel cell, and the fuel cell is really made up of a collection of these. This is a fuel cell. It looks like a black plastic license plate. This is one cell, and it's like a sandwich. You just stack them up. You want more power? Add more cells. Make a bigger sandwich. And what goes through, if you look at it, it's a piece of plastic. And the grooves that are in here, look at this. You get hydrogen runs through these grooves. So what's really going on inside these little holes? How is this thing making electricity? Well, inside the fuel cell, there are two sets of tiny passageways separated by a membrane. And if you look very close, the two main sections are kind of like the two sides of a tennis court. On one side is hydrogen, and on the other side, oxygen. And then there's the membrane that separates them. It's kind of like a net. So here we are in a tennis court. I, of course, you notice now, represent the atom oxygen, and for those of you who are oxygen atoms yourselves, you of course recognize that I have 8 electrons. This is a fuel cell, so oxygen is opposite hydrogen. There are 2 hydrogen atoms, and if you rotate, please, you will see that they too each have 1 electron. Now, it is in the nature of this kind of chemistry that hydrogen and oxygen are attracted to each other. You yearn for them, but there is a membrane between us. Now, the rules of the fuel cell are, you will try to come to me, but you'll have to go under or through the membrane. You'll try under the membrane.
You can jump.
Down they go, the 2 hydrogen atoms approaching the oxygen atom with harder, but notice now, through the membrane, we made it. Now, but I use the word but advisedly. Could you please rotate? So show the audience your butts at this moment. Well, notice that this has got no electron here. The question has to be asked, where are the electrons? Remember when the hydrogen had to come through the membrane? Well, when it did that, its electrons were stripped off. The electrons simply aren't allowed through the membrane in a fuel cell. But they do want to come to the other side. So very cleverly, they go around the membrane, right at the edge of the fuel cell, over and over and over again. And moving.
That's how we get the current.
That's electrical current. That's what lights up the light bulb, or in this case, what powers your car. And here's what makes the fuel cell so clean. After the electrons get to the other side, they rejoin their old friends, hook up with the oxygen, and before you know it, you've got H2O, water.
It's clear now how fuel cell works? Raise your hand, it's clear or not?
Question?
Yes.
How do they go back around?
Because there is an external, so yeah, that's a very good question. The question is, how do the electrons get around? The electrons will choose the least resistance path, and that's actually a current collectors. It will go through the current collectors externally, and hydrogen will go through the membrane. Okay? Yes?
How will it work if the hydrogen has 2 valence electrons, or does it only work if it has 1?
Pardon?
Like, does the system work if each hydrogen atom has 2 valence electrons, or will it only work if each atom has 1?
So the question is, hydrogen has 2 valence electrons, right? And then
Like in the video, it said like the hydrogen atoms each have 1 valence electron.
right.
Does it work? Does the system work if they have 2?
No, it has to be 1 valence electron. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. So we learned about how a fuel cell works out. Now the best way for you guys to be interesting is just run a fuel cell car in our demonstration unit, where we have actually we'll pour water. You'll have guys will pour water, and through electrolysis you generate hydrogen, and the hydrogen goes to the membrane of that car, and you guys have and the car moves. So we'll just go out now in different groups, and we'll follow the volunteers, go in groups to different demonstration unit, and actually see how we store chemical charge and then drive a car through generating electricity. Okay, have a seat. Yep. Frank. I'm done.
So folks, what we're going to do in just a moment, okay, in just a moment, we have like a science fair for you, where we have all kinds of different kinds of experiments. We have the lemon experiment, we have the fuel cell car, we have all kinds of different things. Now we want you, we also have the energy balls, and you get one of your very own, okay? And so we want you to spread out, because there are a lot of things to do. We also have the fun fly sticks. And now one thing, you know, don't use this on people. Use it on things, okay? Yes, I know, several people are disappointed now, but this is like a Van de Graaff generator. You don't want to, you know, zapping another person is not going to happen here, okay? But you know, balloons and different items, that's just fine, okay? So we have all these different places to go, all these different things to do, and spread yourself out, have some fun, go through all that, and then and then we have cars outside that actually are electric cars and hybrid cars. We have a plug-in hybrid car outside. So we have all these things for you to see, and we think you're going to have a great time, okay? So we're going to the cafeteria, so if you'll go there now, remember, spread out. There's lots of stuff.